Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring Dawn of War 2 Retribution. Red-Rupee here, calling the shots for you as always, as I am once again back from Boston. Went out to PAX East this past weekend, had a blast, met some other players and fans of Dawn of War 2, met Cyrus and Neo Epoch, a pair of players I often see in the Elite Mod chat. It was good to put some names to the faces. Hopefully those guys had a blast. I know I did too. Played some great games like Transistor, The Last of Us. Got to hang out with the Proto Men and watch some badass concerts with MagFest, all that fun stuff. But anyways, time to get back to the cast and time to get back to Dawn of War. We are on Greentooth Gorge here once again. Everyone's favorite one-on-one map, or if not everyone's, at least my own. And we've got some great players. Oh, I had something to plug too before we got started. What was it? Oh, there's a tournament coming up, one-on-one tournament for the Elite Mod. We're of course on Beta 9 right now. Lots of crazy bug fisses, all that sort of stuff. The Doom of Malantai is on the field. Of course, we won't be seeing it this game. But Juon X, hopefully I'm saying that right, is putting on a tournament coming up April 14th. Stop over gamereplays.org to check that out. It's going to be a standard one-on-one single elim tournament. He's going to be putting up some prizes, and I'm also going to put up a copy of Company of Heroes 2 for the top prize. We'll have some other prizes too. I think I'll throw in some things for maybe the lower level players and stuff like that, but we'll see how it goes. Be sure to sign up for that, get all that fun stuff going. Anyways, let's go ahead, take a look at our matchup. On the red side, we've got Mr. Paranoid as the Force Commander. Very solid Force Commander play. It's pretty much all he does these days. Has some pretty perspicacious play because that's just what he does. Force Commander is his deal. He's got a great bit of insight into Space Marine. And then on the blue side, we've got Mr. Stevebud as the Warp Spider Exarch. And I think this is a great map for the Warp Spider because there are quite a few garrisons throughout the map, and really, the Warp Spider, really any ranged hero, but especially one that can teleport around and has some great ranged DPS like he does, can make excellent use of all of these various garrisons throughout the map. So anyways, Greentooth Gorge, basic builds coming up for both sides it looks like. Stevebud going for Banshees, Paranoid going for Space Marines. It's almost foolish not to get Banshees against the Space Marine army. They're great melee DPS, and of course, one of the earliest power melee squads you can get present a major threat to all that power armor that is going to be on the field coming up shortly. Paranoid's grabbed himself a second squad of scouts, and we can see Stevebud actually popping the nodes on both of the power points here early on. Warp Spider's over on the western side of the map, while the Dire Avengers and Banshees take the center of the map. I think actually getting these two power nodes is a good choice against Space Marine. Space Marine don't have an early squad like Hormagaunts, Banshees, Heretics to really take out nodes very quickly, so Paranoid will have to actually devote a couple squads to go and to break that node and get the decap if he really wants to kind of put a hurt on Stevebud's early power income. So Stevebud dropped himself a generator quick too, so I'm sure we'll be seeing probably a shuriken cannon come on relatively quickly. He already got the battle equipment, or rather the aspect of the Avenger as it is in the Elite Mod, for his Dire Avengers as Paranoid moves in to raise this power node here. Actually, a couple of these Guardians aren't even firing. They're kind of behind this structure here. He needs to rearrange those. It looks like they're actually splitting fire between the tanks and the Force Commander, so neither entity is really taking much damage at all. However, if he can land a nice grenade, perhaps... Nope, on the Force Commander, I was saying if he could land a nice grenade on those tacks, he does have the Guardians getting upgraded with their aspect of strength in the midfield, so that could be a dangerous thing for Paranoid to retreat through. Warp Spider, of course, doing some econ damage in the back, going ahead and capping those wreck points that belong to Paranoid, those natural wreck points. Banshee's going on, and it looks like the entirety of Paranoid's backfield here is going to get taken out. Warp Spider's going to get that cap, start engaging the scouts. Paranoid did manage to push Stevebud off of his side of the map, but there are some Guardians that are going to be up here and putting a stop to the scouts early on. Stevebud instead now choosing to get some Rangers. So we might actually be seeing that maybe one of everything build that we often see. Banshees run right past the Force Commander, knows that if they choose to engage, they're just going to get knocked around there at about half health, but Paranoid pulls his tactical Marines back. Paranoid, if there's one thing he's really excellent at, It's not even squad preservation, it's unit preservation. You'll see throughout this game, I almost guarantee that at least through the early parts of this game, Paranoid is going to lose maybe 1 or 2 attacks, I guess. And if he gets Assault Space Marines, which yes, he is purchasing, I'd guarantee that he maybe loses 1 or 2 of those as well. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's how Space Marine has to play. It's a lot tougher when you're not playing Apothecary to really play that tight and make sure you don't lose any of those squad members. But Paranoid got himself those Assault Marines, now choosing to drop his power generators now that he knows he can hold it. Rangers get a quick shot in, already upgraded with their Pathfinder gear as well. Tactical Marines are moving in. Another shot from the Rangers, and it looks like those techs are going to have to get out of there if they don't want to lose any models. They do retreat, and the snipers manage to tag themselves an easy scout kill.
Tell us our task.
So Stevebud has a full gen farm. Looks like Paranoid's still a gen behind on that. He's going to be a little further behind on the power income throughout the game here unless he gets the rest of that power up. But he's pretty low on rec as he's had a pretty rec-heavy build thus far. Paranoid getting baited in by that Warp Spider. He wanted the kill, but the Banshees were waiting for a little ambush right there. Assault Marines have to jump out, leaving themselves pretty low on energy. Won't have another combat assault jump ready there for the time being. Force Commander got himself the Iron Halo, and you see he's popping that up right now. He's low health, but he knows if he just uses that Iron Halo, he can pretty much negate the Ranger fire while he keeps that center point. And that's exactly what happened. Banshee's moving in on these 2 scout squads. Rangers should probably be trying to fight wherever he can find those scouts. He should be hunting them down. He could have left the Banshees right here and taken out that scout squad. That's probably a bit of a poor choice right there. Banshees should have jumped up around here and then forced the squads out with that Ranger fire. Might have been a down squad there. Bit of an oversight by Stevebud. Paranoid recognized the threat, got those scouts out before anything bad happened, and now the Force Commander is going to be able to push off these dire Avengers. Meanwhile, Assault Squad finally getting the decap on this secondary power node of Stevebud's here. And they're going to be taking some fire from the Warp Spider in the meantime. You can tell he's trying to get that bait jump in, but unfortunately the Force Commander is going to reveal the Shuriken, and those Assault Marines are going to know right where to go. I'm sure Stevebud was hoping he could get those assaults to jump on the Warp Spider, but instead they spotted that Shuriken, was able to dislodge the setup team, but it is now heading into the guard tower. Assault Marines almost get that Ranger squad. One model just barely retreats. One more swing of the chainsword, and that would have been a big loss there for Stevebud. Howling Banshees in the backfield, constantly getting those decaps. Stevebud doing a good job of map control so far. The VPs are about even, but I'd be willing to bet that overall, I mean, you can see that Stevebud has 4 squads out and has more requisition right now than Paranoid. Paranoid only has 2 requisition points in his grasp right now. And I don't think either of them are very matured. Of course, his natural one is, but this one is getting decapped once again. VP's evened up, and it looks like Stevebud's heading into Tier 2. So some good solid play from Stevebud so far. Did manage to get himself into that garrison with the Shuriken Cannon and keep himself on the field a little bit longer. This Shuriken will be able to support these Rangers, keep those Assault Marines away. Rangers moving in under stealth and going to start picking away at those Tactical Marines. And so far, Paranoid, I don't think, has lost a single model off of either of these big squads. He's lost a couple scouts, but that's about it. Both players doing a great job at keeping map awareness, keeping squad awareness, and really going to be taking this game into the later stages, I'm sure. Scouts heading into the garrison, both sides really using those garrisons to maximum effect. Rangers finding themselves out of position, they spot it right away. As soon as Stevebud notices that something's moving in on those Rangers, he just pulls them right back. And you can see, actually it looks like that missed. I was about to say, those Rangers do almost nothing to that energy shield. But I think the Force Commander actually hopped into green cover right there. I don't know. I don't believe they do miss some green cover. Anyways, I'm rambling. That was one single scout shot. It's not going to matter in the long run. Force Commander's moving in. It looks like we're going to see a push from Paranoid as he's trying to figure out how to get into the center here. He knows he has to be careful of the Shuriken. He knows Banshees are likely watching it. And he also knows that Stevebud wants him to jump on these Rangers right here. So Paranoid's Tier 2 going to be able to get himself a Razorback onto the field here relatively quickly. Stevebud has tons and tons of requisition. He could probably get a second shuriken if you want, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea, as he's probably going to need to get himself a Bright Lance to deal with that Razorback. And of course, once he gets enough red, which Paranoid has been doing a good job of starving him of, he'll be able to call in some Warp Spiders as well without the cost of any power. Both players sitting on the same power farms right now, though. One full, one power node in the center. And it looks like Paranoid's just kind of hanging back for the time being till he can get this Razorback up on the field and really make a big, concentrated push into the center of the map. Stevebud has to be wary. He has to know that Tier 2 is here, and there's a vehicle now pushing onto the field. The Howling Banshees with the aspect of strength will be able to put a little pressure on it, but really he's going to need a Bright Lance. He's going to need the Warp Spiders or something to really take on that Razorback. The Banshees alone aren't going to do much at all. Warp Spider still on the backfield, upgraded with his Entangling Web, so hoping to have some control over the Assault Marines and the Force Commander for the time being. Shuriken hops in, but there's scouts right here with the grenade. They're going to drop the grenade right in that building, right on top of everything, and it gives the entire squad Dire Avenger bits everywhere. Oh dear. One lone model there, and the platform completely obliterated. Excellent play there by Paranoid. Kind of tricked him out right there. Stevebud didn't know that there was anything inside of that Razorback, but there were scouts lying in wait. And that shouldn't have surprised him all that much. He does have his Rangers with the Pathfinder gear, and that's normally the primary way that Space Marine deals with that. Whenever you have those Rangers skulking around the map under stealth, you can have those scouts with the Sergeant hop inside of that Razorback and really search around for him. Big push coming in from Paranoid right now on this power farm. It looks like he's going to be able to get himself a little more damage onto Stevebud's economy. Luckily for Stevebud, he's got a Wraith Lord which is coming out onto the field here shortly, but it looks like it may cost him a generator or two before he gets there. Instantly getting upgraded with a Shuriken Cannon, which I'm not sure is the right choice. I know the Shuriken Cannon does some great anti-infantry damage, but he needs something to at least threaten this Razorback from range. I think the Bright Lance may have been the better choice right now, but we'll have to see how it plays out. You can see Paranoid already using For the Emperor right there. Force Commander has his Power Fist. He knew there wasn't anything Tier 2 on the field right now, so he went for that Power Fist, knowing that there was a Wraith Lord on the way. Force Commander in a lot of trouble. Banshees might be able to take him out, but it looks like they stay on the Assault Space Marine squad. Get a nice knockdown, but I think it might have been a better choice to try to get that Force Commander. They do tag a single model. Wraith Lord's down to about half HP, and it looks like the Razorback is going to snatch up those Tactical Marines and fall back. Stevebud is at a slight VP disadvantage, but certainly nothing that Eldar can't get himself out of. You can see Stevebud actually had almost this fully matured requisition point right in front of Paranoid's base. War Spider always notorious for getting those weird rear map caps back there. Dire Avenger gonna be healing up this Wraith Lord, and see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. The Razorback just doesn't even care about that Wraith Lord. It's just gonna kite it around for the time being. It's not doing any damage to either side, but if that Wraith Lord had the Bright Lance cannon, that Razorback would have to fall back. Now Tactical Marines are on the field with their rocket launchers, and they'll just be able to reinforce from that Razorback. 2-0 cap against Stevebud, however, as these Rangers change that to a 1-0. And with those Tactical Marines on the field, that Wraith Lord's going to have to be very careful. Both scout squads moving in to help out that Razorback. They're going to have to repair it as that Bright Lance recently got purchased. Guardian Weapon Team upgraded with that Bright Lance anti-vehicle weapon with crazy long range and some pretty heavy firepower as well. But again, I think that Stevebud just needs probably a little something else. I want to say War Spiders is what he needs to get onto the field to deal with this Razorback. Paranoid is very cautious when he plays Space Marine. He knows when to push, but he also knows when to hold his position. And right now he's got 2 VPs. He doesn't have to do anything except hang out and wait, and that's not what you want Space Marine to do. If you let Space Marines sit around, you're going to let their forces build up, and they're just going to get to that big Tier 3 mass that you're not going to be able to do anything about. Stevebud looks like he's kind of non-committal, doesn't know quite what he wants to do here. Assault Squad hasn't gotten upgraded with Thundering Lightning, so there is no snare for the Wraith Lord for the time being, but he's going to have to be very wary of that Force Commander. Paranoid also needs to be careful how much energy he eats up with that shield, because he won't have the Flesh over Steel available on that Power Fist if he's not too careful. So it looks like we've just got kind of a bit of a standoff Bright Lance Cannon starts firing away at that Razorback. It looks like Paranoid might not be paying attention. Drops the Smoke Bomb and now healing up. Warp Spider coming in with the Shimmer Orb now getting upgraded. That'll probably be used along with that Wraith Lord to try to negate the tactical missiles coming in from that.
We support the craft world.
Razorback has to be very careful, going to be needing to get itself fixed up a little bit here before that Bright Lance moves in. I think this would have been an excellent opportunity maybe for the hollow field from those Rangers. Would have covered the approach. But one more shot from that Bright Lance and the Razorback's going to go down. It's out of control. Grenade goes down. Assault Marines moving in on everything. Those Rangers need to turn and fire, maybe knock those assaults over for the Emperor activated once again. You see those yellow circles on the assaults. Rockets, however, going into the back of that Wraith Lord and the Force Commander in hot pursuit. It won't take too many more swings of that Power Fist to take that down. We see the Shimmer Orb go down. It's only going to maybe block a single TAC missile as the Force Commander continues to bash away at that Wraith Lord. Another rocket connects, and it's only going to be one or two more swings to take out that Wraith Lord. Force Commander moving in. Wraith Lord isn't going to get to the protection in time. Banshee's moving in to get the Scream in, but it's too little, too late. The Wraith Lord goes down right in front of the Eldar Warp Gate there, and a big loss for Stevebud. That's two squads now that have gone down for Stevebud, that initial Guardian setup team, and now the Wraith Lord. He did manage to take out that Razorback, so he's going to be able to stay in the game. If that Razorback was still up, I'd be willing to go ahead and call it GG at this point. So Paranoid, content in that Walker destruction, feels like he's going to be able to hold the map, commits to a couple more generators right there, and is going to be pushing hard into Tier 3 with plenty of resource to bring on just about whatever he wants. Stevebud is not going to be far behind. Has lots of requisitions still. Paranoid, however, at this point in the game is beating him in that, and I'm still not sure. I want to say maybe one or two TACs or ASMs have gone down, but that's probably about it so far. It's really, Paranoid does such a great job of keeping all his units alive whenever possible. He even takes very few scout losses, and it makes a huge difference in this Space Marine kind of play. Like, if you can minimize your losses, you're eventually just going to get critical mass, and you're going to have that big mean pile of Space Marines that everyone hates to deal with. And we're almost there right now, even. I mean, we have TACs, Assaults, and the Force Commander, supported by a couple squads of Scouts. We have Dire Avengers pouring out a little bit of fire from that guard tower, but it looks like Stevebud's not quite sure how he wants to engage this for the time being. Paranoid's going to net himself a few kills on that gen farm and leave Stevebud down to just a single farm of his own. Guardians hit the fleet of foot, and oh no, we're going to have the same issue we had before. Scout Grenade goes down and takes out the entire squad again. Oh no. Guardian bits everywhere. Oh dear. Paranoid pulling the same trick he did once again. Scared those Guardians into the guard tower and then dropped a grenade right on the door. Stevebud kicking himself for that one, I'm sure. And Paranoid has himself a Predator coming onto the field. Stevebud really needs to get something out here. He's down now another squad, and you can see the cards are just starting to stack against him. Those scouts really been spot on with those grenade tosses here this game. Looks like the Banshee's going to try to hit some power, but I don't think it's even going to matter too much at this point. Even if they take out this gen farm, Paranoid has plenty of power. He's already got a Predator out on the field. His army's hitting that major endgame point. Stevebud's getting himself a Fire Prism, but Paranoid's going to be able to call himself some Terminators or something along those lines here relatively shortly. A couple Banshees are going to go down on retreat right there, but no major losses as there's no melee in the way. Bright Lance still trying to figure out what it can do. Predators out on the field, but without anything to snare that Pred, that Bright Lance is going to have a heck of a time dealing with this. Force Commander now capping the natural VP of Stevebud. It's 266 to 340. Stevebud's kind of been on the back foot on VPs pretty much since Tier 2. He kind of kept it even, but now Paranoid's just really been holding the map well, been playing excellently, even despite a couple solid pushes. He's managed to really punish Stevebud in a couple key instances and keep him off of the map. So we've got Stern Guards coming onto the field. Assault Marines look like they're going to stay as they are. Scouts once again get upgrading with their Sarges and trapping this poor Warp Spider in that garrison. He just hits the retreat button, and it looks like, oh man, it looks like he might actually be in trouble. See if this grenade connects or not. It does do a little bit of damage, and oh my gosh, Paranoid actually lets the Warp Spider get by. I think he actually would have taken them out if he had chosen to melee him. Look at, he's down to 60 HP. Those assaults surely would have finished him off, but a brief oversight there by Paranoid. Doesn't look like it might matter though, as it is a 3-0 cap, and it's 185 to 340. Banshees get the cap, or sorry, the decap, as the Fire Prism opens fire on some Space Marines. But Stevebud's doing a good job of kind of holding several points here. He's got 2 Preds on the field. There's a D-Cannon coming out for Stevebud. Stevebud's really going to need to split up this army and try to eliminate these Preds one at a time, because I don't think he has what it currently takes to deal with both of those tanks and all of these Space Marines. It's looking pretty dire right now for Stevebud. Rangers trying to pick away at the army, at least get those assaults a little down on HP, so that when the Banshees come in, they can do their job and take them out quick, maybe pick off a couple models and really reduce the DPS right there. Fire Prism using the sight of those Rangers to start blasting away at those attacks. Actually did some pretty heavy damage right there with that first shot. And another strong hit. Wow, took out 3 tactical Marines right there off of that Stern Guard squad. That was a beautiful shot if I've ever seen one. Spot on, D-Cannon getting set up. And Stevebud has an army that's going to be great for holding points right now, but he needs to get out there. It's 106 to 340. And a triple cap against him. He has precious little time to get these points back. Warp Spider is on the far side of the field where Paranoid has nothing set up. He does kind of have his army bifurcated here, kind of between the center and lower points, so he really doesn't want to split any further to deal with that Warp Spider and take the center. Banshees once again trying to take this point away. They are going to get the decap and put some heavy pressure on those Assault Space Marines. Predators pouring in fire, but a nice looking knockdown right here might be the end of the squad. The Sarge goes down, another model goes down, and the 2 remaining models are just barely going to get out of there. Paranoid did return the favor though and kill all the Banshees except for the Exarch. Warp Spider drops the Shimmer Orb right here and is going to get a decap. Pretty classic trick we've seen there. Nice shot from that D-Cannon, taking a big chunk of health off of that Predator. Warp Spider gets the decap, and along with his normal Warp Spiders and D-Cannon, going to be able to scare that Force Commander away, and it looks like he has managed to stem the tide here. And it's 62 to 340. VPs are at a standstill. Predators coming back in along with that Force Commander, going to try to get that Warp Spider out of there. Of course, Stevebud's on top of his micro, warps out, and puts some serious pressure on the Force Commander. Still having a bit of a tank duel here on this side of the map. Both the Predator and the Fire Prism afraid to commit without any support, and that's a wise choice for both players. Really, whoever loses their tanks at this point, I think, is going to lose the game. Of course, Paranoid has a lot more time to maneuver around and think about what he wants to do than Stevebud does. Stevebud repurchasing himself a Dire Avenger squad so he can fix up that Fire Prism. He knows Stevebud is going to be repairing that Predator whenever he gets the opportunity, and he does have it upgraded to a Laspred right now, which is going to put even more pressure on that Fire Prism. But unfortunately, it's going to be a little less effective against these Banshees. And they may... Wow, it missed 2 shots in a row, and that's going to allow those Banshees to get the cap on that VP. Wow, another big shot over here, it looks like, from the D-Cannon. Man, I see a bunch of tactical Marine bits over there. Predator under a lot of fire. 2 battles going on right now, and both of them look like they're going in Stevebud's favor. 52 to 333. Singularity goes off in the middle of the map, doesn't really connect to anything. And we can hear the Fire Prism just constantly blasting away on this side of the map. That Fire Prism's already level 3. Wow. Those 3 Stern Guards made a big difference in getting that thing leveled up. It's going to be a real threat to Stevebud right now. Predators sitting at level 2. Everything else kind of... I mean, no really high-level squads right now. Because both players have really been playing so tight. Rangers getting the decap over here. 2-0 cap against Paranoid right now. 50 to 306, and I can't believe Stevebud's managed to get this game and turn it around and at least try to even this out. D-Cannon and Brightlance watching vigilantly on that center VP. Fire Prism's all fixed up and moving into the center as well. I think he senses a concentrated push here from Stevebud. Stevebud trying to figure out how he's going to approach this kind of Eldar stronghold here. Both Predators now moving into the center. One's still pretty beat up. Paranoid needs to get those scouts over there to fix that thing up before he pushes it in. And I'm kind of surprised that Paranoid hasn't gotten the armor upgrade on either of those Predators. I'm not sure what he's saving up for. But I think at this point he really wants to make sure he keeps those Predators intact. Otherwise, Stevebud is just going to be able to charge in and shatter those Space Marine lines. Dire Avengers watching, and it looks like the Stern Guards are going to move in, try to get a cap right here, and wow, instantly they take a loss right there from both the Fire Prism and the D-Cannon. Predator moving in, Force Commander putting a little bit of pressure on the Fire Prism. Banshee's going to choose to engage on their own right here. Fire Prism has to be very careful. Luckily, the Force Commander didn't have enough energy right there for Flesh over Steel. Banshee's hacking up some Assault Space Marines. Force Commander haranguing the D-Cannon, but gets shut down by the entangling web. He needs to get out of there, but it looks like he's about to go down. Banshees get routed by the Assault Space Marines, but they're taking heavy losses. Oh my goodness. There goes the Haywire Grenade on the Predator. And that was a pretty sweet engagement. Actually, what happened to those Stern Guards? The Stern Guards are down. I'm not sure what happened to them right there. Perhaps the D-Cannon sunk a Singularity or another shot into them. It looks like there's a few more sitting there in the center, and I don't see anything else. Rangers do go down on the far side of the map, but here comes an Eldritch Storm. It's not quite going to connect. Paranoid manages to split perfectly and evade it with that heavily injured Predator. If even one of those lightning bolts had brushed against the side of its armor, it would have been obliterated. It had a mere 32 HP left, and Stevebud has managed to keep at least the VPs from ticking away anymore. 49 to 234. The VPs are neutral, but about to head back into the hands of Paranoid. Those tanks need to get repaired, though, and without those Stern Guards on the field, he's going to have a lot less range firepower to pour into this Eldar army. Banshee's taken a lot of fire from that Predator for the time being, but it looks like the Warp Spiders are moving in for another Haywire Grenade. That long-range artillery tank putting a lot of pressure on those Predators. Paranoid knows he really can't push without it. He needs to get both of these tanks repaired up and then make a solid push in to take out that Fire Prism. He's got plenty of time still. It's 40 to 234. Force Commander's back on the field along with his Assault Squad, which is now level 3. And I'm surprised the Assault Squad still doesn't have its Thunder and Lightning upgrade. If he managed to land a Melt-A-Bomb on that Fire Prism, he'd probably be able to take it out a lot more easily. But he has to be very careful, as Stevebud's really been doing a great job of bringing this match back into his favor, and Eldar can certainly do that once they start getting their big tier 3 things on the field. With that D-Cannon and that Fire Prism, Stevebud can put out so much damage before Paranoid even gets close enough to start doing anything of his own, especially now that those Stern Guards are off the field. Force Commander's just going to tank away while the Warp Spider's constantly harassing. Steve's all over the map, really stretching Paranoid thin, doing a great job playing that classic Eldar all-over style of play. Banshees and Warp Spiders putting some pressure on these Assault Space Marines. Meanwhile, Scouts trying to do what they can. Warp Spider gets out. Assault Marine's in a lot of trouble. Both tanks moving in, but the Warp Spider manages to rout the 2 Scout squads. D-Cannon and Fire Prism firing away at that Force Commander. The Predators just haven't been able to approach for a while now, despite having a great armor force. Those tanks just not quite able to do anything. Big hit, and oh my gosh! Wow, that D-Cannon, where the heck is that D-Cannon? Way back there, getting the killing blow on that tank. It's actually kind of weird. It looks like that tree takes up a lot more space, but it only really takes up that little sliver, so it can actually fire through this arc right here. So that's a huge win for Stevebud. This Predator's in a lot of trouble now out here on its own. The Scouts need to get back on the field. You can see, looks like another drop pod coming in to reinforce these assault squads. Paranoid maybe needs to get some Terminators or something onto the field. He doesn't quite have the requisition to do so. He's been using those drop pods to try to keep that requisition high, but he's just a bit too far back for the time being. Warp Spiders come in. Big shot from the Fire Prism. The Haywire goes down. That Predator gets obliterated. And wow, Stevebud now leaving Paranoid with but 3 squads left. And there's not much I think he's going to do. Paranoid drops the GG, and that's going to be the game. Wow. Stevebud really pulling it together there at the end. Some excellent plays. Top-notch Eldar play there in Tier 3. That D-Cannon, which I don't see used often enough. Man, it was just taking huge hits on those stern guards, on those tanks, and Paranoid was just never able to get in there and disrupt it. Those Banshees had been causing some huge issues, and that Fire Prism can knock over a squad, and if a squad gets knocked over next to Banshees, it's going to be a dead squad. We saw them almost take out those Assault Space Marines a couple times. But wow, great play, great game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. Be sure to go over to GameReplays.org, check out that tournament, get yourself signed up for that. And this is Red-Rupee. I'll be catching you guys next time.